second year BTech MEMS.
And I'm Pavni from second year BTech Mechanical.
We're really glad to have you all here today for today's CV building and review session. It's aimed at helping you improve your resume and get direct, actionable feedback from someone who's gone through the same processes and succeeded, especially in the non-core space.
Hi everyone. So we're excited to welcome our guest for the evening, uh, Arunaditya Bhaiya, an alumnus of IIT Indore, currently working um, as a summer intern and incoming associate consultant at Nation with Namo. Um with a diverse set of experiences and insights, he's here to help us understand what really makes a resume stand out for roles outside the traditional core domains.
Am I audible, guys?
Yes.
Okay, we can start, right?
Yes.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Arunaditya and thanks for the intro, guys. So we'll begin quickly. Coming to non-core, I hope everyone is aware of the different types of roles and opportunities available in this domain. Right? There is analyst type of roles, there are consulting roles, there are product roles and finance roles. Okay, overall there are 4 domains. Right? So coming to the opportunities that we have on campus, you're most likely to find analyst type of roles in internships as well as placements, some product roles in internships as well as placements. Consulting roles are rare. Nation with Namo is one of the rare examples. The TPC is of course trying to get more consulting roles. I hope your batch gets more, but it's rare still. Analyst and product are more likely. There are further finance roles as well, uh, such as trading roles in firms such as Future First and Excella, etc. They hire for placements as well, and they're likely to come for internships also. All right. So briefly, these are the 4 domains. Let's go one by one and what are the prerequisites of each domain, right? Coming to consulting, it's all about analyzing a business problem and giving a strategy or a solution, right? So there are things such as RCA, which is root cause analysis, structured thinking, and in general problem solving, being able to break down any problem into bits and parts, right? There are tools which we use in cases or case studies like SWOT, PESTLE, market sizing, guesstimates. There are many other frameworks as well that we use. Coming to what you need to do for consulting interns or consulting preparation for placements as well. There are case competitions, like you'll find plenty of these on Unstop, right? Make it a habit to visit Unstop regularly. Is it really not clear?
It's clear for me. Is it clear for everyone else?
Give a thumbs up, everyone, if it's clear. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Lavesh, you can check your network once.
Okay. So make it a habit to visit Unstop regularly. Like you'll find case comps related to consulting, product, finance, and even analyst competitions as well. So that is one habit I think you should pick up very soon. Right. Coming to club projects, if you are a part of the CFA club, well and good. Even otherwise, you can reach out to the club or in general find projects related to these domains. Otherwise as well. There are several consulting courses you can find online. One popular one is a winter consulting course by IIT Guwahati. Right, it runs in December. So if you follow the consulting club of IIT Guwahati, you will find out about that course. Coming to product, there are things like product roadmap and design, wireframing. What on metrics should you track in a particular product? Okay, stuff like this. And a product analyst basically deals with uh, these aspects of the product, right? Analyzing what works and what doesn't work for the product. There are several tools for these as well. Now, what you can do for do product on these are the product versions of case competitions, right? There are product teardowns where it is a kind of a project that you do, right? You make a PPT or make a presentation or make a report on take a particular product of your choice. Say take Zomato or Swiggy or take Instagram for that matter, and you break down that product into what you find interesting about it, why you think these particular features work for that product, why you think something doesn't work, what in your opinion should be changed, right? You can do this all by yourself, right? You just take up some product, make a good presentation or report out of it, post it on LinkedIn, and you will be creating a portfolio of yourself of product in that sense. For analyst roles, it's pretty straightforward, right? There are three major things that you need to be good at. It's Excel, Power BI, or Tableau, and SQL. Right? You need to be extremely good at these three, and your resume should eventually reflect these three. There is an additional thing that you can do. You can go to the basics of ML, right? That is mostly, but for data analyst roles, for business analyst roles, without ML is sufficient. But I would suggest you go into slightly the basics of ML. Don't need to go into much detail as well. For finance, there is not much you can prepare as such, right? Finance companies that come on campus in general don't ask for a lot, right? They just want basic you to be good at math and logic, basically in general, right? There are particular quant roles for which you go into testing alphas and the world quant type of stuff. You can just go into the world quant website and explore a lot. There is enough information there if you want to go into the quant side of finance. For core finance and companies that come on campus for finance roles, just good math and logic in general is enough. Have a good awareness of the stock market and other money markets that work in the world, right? Have a good understanding of that and a good general knowledge uh, across the finance and business domains. That is what is mostly asked in the interviews, and that is what they mostly test on. You can do finance competitions like finance case comps and trading competitions are there, plenty on Unstock. And there is something called CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, which is a something parallel to something like CA or Chartered Accountant, right? It is something similar. If you look at the preparation for that, it covers a lot of financial terms and insights and stuff like that. So you can go through some of that preparation as well. You don't need to exactly do CFA or gain the certification, but you can look through what the preparation is and what uh, things are covered in that. It can help for a finance role. All right. So briefly, I've covered what is these for. Does anyone have any questions in this related to this particularly? Give a thumbs up if there are no questions. We can move on. Cool. I hope there are no questions then. Is DSA required for analyst roles? No, DSA is not required for analyst roles. DSA is particularly for SD or software development roles. For analyst roles, Power BI, Excel, and SQL are sufficient. Basics of ML will be a plus. No, not even for on-campus. As DSA is not required as such. It is not a part of analyst JDs. You might be confusing with some analyst roles. There are some companies such as Accenture, etc., that say the role is analyst, but those are actually more of SD or technical roles, right? Core analyst roles that are particularly non-tech do not require any DSA or coding programming as such, right? It's SQL, Power BI, and Excel plus basics of ML. Basically, you need to know how to deal with data, and that part of ML, if you do it, it's more than enough, right? That is also for data analysts. Business analysts is fine. What is asked in OAS? OAS of analyst roles are generally quant questions, quant as in basic math questions, math puzzles, and logical reasoning puzzles, right? If someone has an idea of how the CAT exam is, if you can look at CAT papers, CAT exam papers, it is basically that only. There is sometimes it has English and English reasoning, it has math reasoning, and logical reasoning and puzzles. That is what is part of most OAs of analysts, consulting, as well as product. For product, there might be some questions which are more product centric. For consulting, there might be more guesstimates, etc. And for analysts, it's mostly logic, quant, and English reasoning. Plus, there might be guesstimates as well. Any other questions? No, right? Thumbs up. Cool. We'll move on. Okay, coming to the resume part, I hope everyone has the college format, right? That is the one you're supposed to use for on-campus roles. It's clean and minimal. No, there is no issues with the format as such, right? Make sure for non-core roles to keep it at one page, right? For core or tech roles, sometimes it is advised that you can extend it beyond a page. But for non-core roles, I would strongly advise that keep it to one page, right? The font should be a 10 or 11 pointer font, and make sure to submit it in a PDF format, right? There should be no image or image as in like the text itself should not be in an image format, right? Your text should be parsable, as in when you move the cursor across your text, right, the text should be getting selected and that should be detected by a software, right? Basically, if you make the resume on latex, all of this will be taken care of. There will be no issues. Just get the PDF format and submit it as such, right? Okay, coming to how you should make your points, frame your points, there is something known as the STAR framework, which is situation, task, action, and result. Your any bullet point that you write in your experience or your projects or even your PURs should be mapped according to this framework. This is an ideal framework. It's not strict that you have to stick to this framework, but if you try to match all your points towards this framework, it will be in general helpful for you. Okay, so there are something called as action verbs. I'll be coming into that later as well. You need to use a lot of those action verbs. Try to include a lot of numbers and metrics in your projects and experience, right? Highlight the tools and techniques that you've used in those particular projects and experience, and always try to show the outcome or impact of what you've done, right? These are some basics. I hope everyone is already aware. There is something known as ATS as well, which is application tracking software that companies use. So when there are bulk resumes in bulk or applications in bulk, right, no one sits and goes through the resume, every single resume as such, right? They feed the resumes into the software, and the software generates a score, something known as an ATS score, of which how good or how clean the resume is, and then it goes on for further scrutiny. So for this ATS score, coming to how our college format is, right? So in general, there are some things in our format which reduce the score. That is not an issue for all of you because everyone has the same format. So in on-campus, ATS score is not an issue, but still, I would suggest on any website, if you just Google, ATS score for my resume or ATS score resume freelance, you'll find a lot of websites that get you this score. All right. Even in our college format, ensure that the score you get on those websites is at least 60. Worst case 50. Okay. It should be above 50, 60. Ideal scores are of course 70, 80, but our college format is such that because we have our photo, because we have our college logo, etc., the score gets reduced by itself. So above 60 is fine. Ensure that the score is above 60. Those websites will also give you a feedback of how you need to, improve your score and what changes you can make. You can use ChatGPT for this as well, right? It'll give you pointers on how you can make your resume more ATS friendly. Okay. You will be getting a JD or job description for each role. Make sure the words used in those JDs you incorporate into your resume as well, right? You need to be making a very role specific and JD specific resume. You don't use a single resume throughout your internship or placement process, right? Every role, every job that you apply to, you customize your resume accordingly and try to align every point chronologically, as in the most latest point should come on the top, right? And in the descending order as such. So whatever you've done most recently or achieved most recently in that particular section should be on the top. In some cases, it might happen that because some achievements of your past seem more important or more, maybe they'll be more talking points for the interview or for the who's ever looking at your resume, right? In those specific cases, you can make it a point to put those particular pointers up. But otherwise, in general, as a rule, make sure to keep the latest achievement or latest experience on the top and following such a way. All right. Any questions here? Give a thumbs up if no. Okay. In off-campus, our college format is good enough in general. You can do a few things: remove your photo, remove the college logo, and in the education section of our college resume, there is a table, right? Try to remove that table and instead write the education part also in straight lines or pointers. You can look at some generic, education generic CV templates that are out there. Nowhere you'll find a table, right? So you need to remove that table, remove the photo, and remove the logo of the college. And for off campus as well, make sure that the points are chronological, right? In on campus, it's fine if you put the more important one up and the less important one down, but off campus, make sure it is chronological and there are no images or graphics or tables. That should be fine for off campus. On campus, of course, stick to the format that is given, right? Any other questions? Cool. We'll move ahead then. Okay. Coming to the links that you add. So I'll be showing my resume as well, where you add the links and all. I hope everyone is aware of this in general. But make sure to make the links clean, right? As in, if your LinkedIn ID is say linkedin.com/Arunaditya, it should be that only, right? Maybe Arunaditya Dash with your surname, right? But then not LinkedIn Arunaditya 1234566 or some nickname within your link, even in GitHub as well. Try to change your usernames or have something professional come out, or else hide it with a hypertext. Okay, I'll show an example of that as well. Uh, LinkedIn gives you the option to edit your LinkedIn URL as well. In the end, you can customize it to your name, so it looks more professional. The default URLs that you get on LinkedIn, right? They have numbers and alphanumeric codes in the end. So make sure to edit that. You get that option in your LinkedIn bio. Maintain a professional LinkedIn and ensure that your LinkedIn link is there in your CV. Right? Recruiters do go through your LinkedIn. Most of them do, right? And within your LinkedIn, make sure that it's well maintained. It's very well structured. All the points are updated, up to date. Everything that is there in your CV must be there on your LinkedIn as well. I'll give a look at my LinkedIn as well. Maybe that will be helpful. Yeah. So have a decent bio here. If you do not have any, past experience or anything, mention your interest in a formal way. All right. Make sure to add any experience PORs that you have here. Write a few lines about every task that you've done. Don't, and when you write here, also make sure, the small things like having a capital letter at the start, having full stops, making sure there are no grammatical errors here or other errors as such. All right. When I've noticed this particular thing a lot, when people add in their education section, they add IIT Indore, or like they just write IIT Indore and do not select the actual uh, college as IIT Indore where the logo appears. In a lot of LinkedIn profiles of students from our college, you will find that the logo does not appear here because they've not selected the right college and just written IIT Indore there. So small things like these, make sure to take care of it. Right? Describe what you've done so far properly, write your interests, post about your projects. If now once you'll start doing consulting projects or product projects or analyst projects, right? Make sure at least have one or two posts on your profile, right? So when a recruiter goes through, it looks fine, looks decent, that okay, this person has done something, right? You can mention your projects in the project section as well. So small things in the LinkedIn profile, make sure it looks good, it looks neat. It doesn't have to be very heavy or look like you have done everything, but whatever you've done, make sure it looks good here and all of it is present here, right? And most importantly, in the about or bio, right? Write a brief paragraph about what you do and what you're interested in, and make sure it aligns with the company as well. It's not that you've written everything about SD here and then you're applying for consulting or analyst roles, and how it'll end up, right? So make sure your LinkedIn aligns with your options when you're applying as well. Okay. Any questions on LinkedIn? Okay, I'll move ahead then. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look at resume as such. I'll share my resume and we'll just take a look at how it needs to be ideally. So this is how I hope everyone's resume looks like, right? You have your photo here, a professional photo. Make sure the background is clean. The background is clean, right? You're wearing something formal, at least a shirt, tie, coat, whatever, and make sure the background is clean. You have a good smile on. College logo is here. The contact details, make sure the phone number is correct. Small things that I've noticed in some of the CVs shared as well. Some phone numbers were more than 10 digits, right? There is +912 times. right? Okay. Then your personal email ID also, make sure that it is professional and just your name. Try to avoid numbers, right? In case of some common names, you might find that, okay, your name is not available on Gmail, right? So add your surname, add a dash, add a comma, add something like that. Not a comma, I mean, add one or two numbers, right? Don't say you have a gaming profile with the name of some shady game or something like that, and don't put that email ID here, right? Your personal email ID should be formal and have your name only with a few numbers. Okay. Then there's your college ID and your LinkedIn in a clean URL. If you take a look at this, it's just my name with a dash in the middle, right? If you have a lot of numbers here, try to remove them. LinkedIn gives you that option. You will find an edit option, edit URL when you go to your LinkedIn profile, right? So correct that and make a clean URL in case you have not already. Education is pretty standard, right? Nothing here. Coming to experience, if you have past internships, then this is where those will come, and try to articulate in as many points possible, right? If you have past experience, then maximum weightage will anyhow come to this section only, and make sure point to highlight the important parts of your experience as well, right? In small things like the duration, make sure this June, July, make sure the J is capital. If you're writing present here, make sure the P is capital, and make sure the points are well structured. Okay, and the points are curated to which role you're applying to. We'll come to how to write the same point in different ways in the next few slides, right? So this is where your experience part comes through. I'm hoping, since I guess many are second years here who are just going to their third year, maybe a few will have this experience part, many may not. If you do, then make sure this is very well crafted, because this will be the most important part for you. If you don't, it's not a problem. You can focus more on the projects part, right? Again, as we had discussed earlier, right? Try to have as many numbers as possible. Follow the STAR framework, right? Situation, task, action, result, and the outcome of what you've worked on your new project. Right? It should be very clear and crisp into 2 to 3 points, not more. Don't write 5 to 6 points for each project. If your resume is empty or it lacks, say you don't have enough points to write, then try to do one more project, include another project, but don't rely a lot on a single project or a few projects, right? If you don't have any past experience, then you need to cover this part also with projects. Into skills, all of this is pretty standard. Again, skills that you have in the particular resume, try to match it to the role. If it's not related, you can remove it. Otherwise, it can be there also, but make sure that the skills relevant to that role you do include, right? In the key courses part as well, curated to the role. In stuff like PORs and achievements, make sure it is chronologically arranged. If you think one achievement which maybe you have done a lot in the past and not very recent is very important, then maybe you can move it towards the top. But otherwise, make sure it's in a chronological order. As you can see here, the most latest one is in the top and going back to the past, right? Any questions here? Okay, we'll move to the next. In POR, should we sort them by value or time? Uh, if you think something is particularly, a lot more valuable, like 3 4 times more valuable than the ones that are coming more recently, then you can put it on the top. But in general, try to keep it chronologically, because for on campus it's still fine that you put the more important one on the top, but for off campus, definitely make sure that it's chronological, because that missing that, turning around the dates really affects the AT score. Any other questions? Should we explain what was our contribution in POR section? Okay, so this you need to do when you have space left, right? If suppose say there is no prior experience, then you can fill that empty space up by explaining what is there in the POR. If there is enough, you filled your resume enough already, then you can ignore describing your POR. If you have space left, then it's a very good way to fill that space up. Only in that case, write about your POR. If there is no space, then no need to. It's not important as much. How many max internships and projects is there a limit? Okay, so in general, right, the goal is to keep every section balanced, right? So here, as you can see my resume, right, 2 internships, 3 projects, 4, 5 PORs, 4, 5 achievements, right? Suppose if I didn't have, let's say I did not have this experience, then I would have put maybe 4 projects and started writing about my PORs, right? If I say I had 1 project less, then I would have done that 1 project. So you actually need, what you need to do is balance it out. It should not look like the experience part is huge and the projects part is very small, right? When someone opens your resume, it should look like all parts are balanced. If you just zoom out and look here, you can see the width. Basically, in the paper, you can see the width of each part, right? More or less, the projects and experience, if you can keep it equal, it looks good. PORs and achievements, if you can keep it equal, it looks good, right? Keep in mind the overall look of the resume as well. There is no maximum limit as such, but try to keep it balanced. 2 to 3, 2 to 3, everywhere is fine. Is this format okay for non-campus? I had mentioned earlier as well, for non-campus, do a thing, remove the photo, right? Remove the college logo. Again here, if by chance that the application that you're filling is on a Google form, right, then most likely this format is fine. If you're filling somewhere on the company website or on some other platform as such, then make sure to remove your photo, remove the logo, and the education part, remove the table and write it just as straight lines. Okay. Could you review some resume? Yeah, towards the end, we'll take a look at, I'll point out the common mistakes in the resumes that have already been shared. If someone wants to volunteer and give their resume on the spot, we can take a look at that as well. Should we add tools?
Actually, we already have 3 resumes for
Yeah.
you to overview.
Cool, then yeah, I'll be taking a look at those. Should we add tools or soft skills session? Abhijit, I didn't understand your question. Like, if you tools as in, what do you say, like Excel and PowerPoint and stuff? I guess he's talking about that only. So yeah, you can add tools. You can add tools that you're familiar with, right? Like in technical skills, I mentioned, say PowerPoint or advanced Excel, Power BI, stuff like that. Make sure to write this. Soft skills, I would say no need to, because soft skills is something that is very generic and very obvious, right? That soft skills are not something to highlight or mention in your CV. It is a basic minimum requirement. So I guess soft skills you can skip. It looks like you're just trying to fill the space up. So I would say avoid mentioning soft skills like team leadership and great communication, problem solving, and stuff like this is very generic, and it just looks like you're trying to fluff the CV. I try to avoid stuff like this. Be very specific and very honest with what you're writing. Should we add links of our project? Yes, definitely add links of your projects if you think it will add value to your resume. For example, I have a few projects here that I have not added links to. I have not added the links on purpose because I felt like the roles that I was applying to, these projects, although these are great projects and these display my particular, my problem solving and my analytical approach, but these are slightly off domain for that particular role. So I skip the links because they might take the interviewer in a different direction, or the person eventually, when they take my interview, they'll be looking at my CV side by side. So I didn't want them to go in a different direction altogether. That is why I had not put the links. For the ML project, you can see I had put the link. So that decision of which link to put and which link to not put will be very role specific, and that decision you have to take when you're applying for the particular role. Whether that project, when the interview clicks and opens the link, will it be a positive for you or will it be a negative? If there is a chance that maybe they'll feel the project is not up to the mark, maybe that can go in a negative for me, then it's fine not to include it. It's not compulsory to include links as well. Only include the link when you think it will be a definite plus for you. And we had 2 overlapping internship period is the same, one on site, another remote. Yeah, definitely there's no issue with that. You can add overlapping internships, no issues. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move forward then. Yeah. Okay. Now let's look at some examples of how you can write the same thing in different ways for different roles, right? Based on the job description of that. Now, this particular line is taken in general from my CV only. So, conducted a comprehensive study on Prasar Bharati and proposed a roadmap to double viewership by 2030. Now, for a consulting role, this is how I would write it, right? Developed a strategic roadmap for India's public broadcaster, aligning stakeholder rights and analytics to propose a 2x viewership model by 2030. Why I would write this? Because one, it emphasizes my structured thinking. Two, it highlights how I, the word stakeholder, which is pretty important for consulting. And then the big picture, right? Double viewership by 2030. Like this is what consulting is about. So I've written that particular statement in this way for a consulting resume. If I would go for the product, then there is another line in that particular description as well. I would put that line on the top, analyze the audience preferences, and if we go to the previous, yeah, a second. Yeah. If you look at 2-3 lines that I've written here, right? So if I was applying for a consulting role, like this top line, which is there on the top because I applied for the consulting role, right? Is there on the top because this highlights what consulting wants. Now these other 2 lines I can put on the top for different roles, which I'll be showing in that particular slide. Yeah. So for product, right, coming to analyzed audience content strategy, audience preferences, and ideated 50 plus content strategies to enhance user engagement and product market alignment for national broadcast. Now, what I did essentially has nothing to do with product as such, right? I was doing a consulting project, but there is some aspect where I can link that particular line to product market fit, right? Some term related to product, and it shifts the focus towards the product role. I hope you're getting what I'm saying, right? So again, similarly for an analyst role, right, synthesized 150 plus. I had taken a survey, so I wrote that okay, I got these data from the survey, and I was using the data to generate an insight to generate a solution. So this is what I would highlight for an analyst role. So the same 3 lines that I've used in my resume, right? That one is on the top because it's a consulting role. If it was a product role, I would put this line on the top, and if it was an analyst role, I would put this line on the top. So when you make that 2-3 line description as well for your projects and for your experience as well, make sure you put one line for each kind of role. If you don't want to do the effort of drafting new lines for new roles later on, in my case, I could just swap the lines for each role as such, and it'll be fine. Otherwise, you can make like 3 lines about consulting for the consulting resume, 3 about product for the product resume, and so on as well, whichever you choose to do. But this is just to show that you can write this. The same content can be highlighted for different product or different roles in different ways. All right. Any questions on this? I guess there was one. Subject I've studied like sociology, economics, basic law, which might be relevant to the job. Yeah, if it's relevant to the job, definitely you can add this in key courses taken section that will be there. So that comes above your. There is a key courses taken section here, right? After my project's technical skills, then Yeah, I have added like data science, consulting, product management. You can add stuff like this if it is relevant to the role. Definitely do add it. You can add it in this section. Any other questions here? Point a single should not be too long to take 2 lines. That depends on the point as such. If the point is heavy, then and there is no way to cut it to a single line, and cutting it to a single line might affect the value of the point. Then there is no issue in keeping it to 2 lines. But when you make it 2 lines, make sure that it is not 1.5 line. Right? It looks good when it's filled as much as possible. Like if you look at the first 2 lines here, I tried to make it full, but I couldn't because maybe I didn't have time while making the resume. But try to make these lines come in full, right? Try to avoid half lines in general. And when you write those single lines as well, make sure that that single line stretches from one end of the resume to the other, right? It should not be just a half line or 3/4 line. At least that one line should be full. And if you're coming to the second line, then make sure it's not just 2-3 words, right? It goes on to fill that line to a decent extent. It's fine to write it in 2 lines. It's not an issue. Can I add Udemy certificates? Yeah, definitely. You can mention the course title in the key courses taken part. You don't need to add the certificate as such. Maybe you can put in links to the certificate in your LinkedIn. Like you can post, you can add those courses in your LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn link will be there. So that's fine. You can mention the course title in the key courses taken part. Not taking courses, studied casual, long time. See, you can mention it in your resume if you have studied casually. The issue will be that placement cell might not verify it, because for on-campus roles, the placement cell usually verifies each thing that you've written in your resume, right? So if I've written key course taken, then they might ask me to show a certificate for that course. If they don't ask, it's fine. Like that particular thing, you need to take it up with the placement cell. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, some CVs were shared earlier, right? These are some common mistakes that I found. Well, like, one is there was too much emptiness, of course. Not that the person had nothing to write. A lot of things were written, but there were a lot of spaces in the middle, and when you open the resume, it just looked a lot emptier than, say, a completely power-packed resume, right? Shabby links, as I mentioned earlier, your LinkedIn and even your GitHub link or whatever links you have of your own profiles, right? Make sure the links are clean and don't have random numbers. Even your personal email ID, make sure it looks professional, right? Spacing and capitalization, this is something I saw very often, right? Random spaces in the middle, there is space after bracket, no space between 2 words, or more than one space between 2 words. And where there should be a cap, it is not on caps. Where there shouldn't be caps, it's on caps. Small stuff like these, it might not seem so important to you, but when a recruiter actually scrutinizes your resume, a tiny thing can really put them off when there is heavy competition. Again, the chronology, we've talked about this earlier, right? Half lines, I just covered that point, right, from Ansh's question. Yeah, incorrect highlighting. You can highlight some things, right, in your resume. Suppose 2-3 words here, 2-3 words here, a few words here, few words here, right? Make sure you highlight what is actually important, right? Don't highlight. Suppose if you look at the last section, I've highlighted that national winner part. I've highlighted that I was a national winner. I wouldn't highlight the name of the competition, right? Small stuff like this. I noticed these mistakes. That's why it might seem trivial, but these were mistakes that I noticed. So yeah, and make sure that, again, as a key rule, make sure that every CV, every resume is specific to the JD and specific to the role, right? Do not use a generic resume. It'll just get thrown out very easily, right? Cool. Coming to resources.
Just one more question. So, like, should we make different resumes for different job descriptions every time? So, should we change it?
Ideally, if possible, yes, right? You can, every time you make a change, you can get it verified by the TPC very easily. So
Okay.
overall, like, your basic structure will be the same, and the things you've done overall will be the same, right? Try to make minor edits and shift it more towards the JD as much as possible. it is suggested, you don't need to overdo it, like making the entire resume from scratch every time. That's not what I'm saying, right? Minor changes here and there, maybe replace a project here and there, the order of the lines you've written, the particular keywords that you're using. Say if the product role, you're focusing more on the product aspect. If it's a consulting role, you're focusing more on that aspect. Stuff like this. Make sure to make changes every time you apply.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions? All right. So your college format is there. There are something known as action verbs that we use, as I mentioned earlier. Stuff like conducted, tinkered, enhanced. All these action words. If you just uh, Google MIT action words or Harvard action words, right, you will find PDFs or even on their website. If you just Google Harvard action words, you will find this PDF of action words, right? For based on the particular skill set, right? For communication, you can see there are so many words. For management, there are plenty of words. For creative, financial, technical, organizational, so plenty of words here, right? If you think I'm not able to write the same thing in different ways, then you can use these different words to start your sentences in your sentences as well. So these add both to the resume score and boost the resume in general as well. So just type Harvard action words for resume on Google. You'll find this as very top link, I guess. There is also an MIT one. If you just search MIT resume action verbs, you'll find it. This is how their site looks, right? See management skills, you'll find a few words here. For communication, a lot of words here. For technical, a lot of words here. These words will come in handy when you have to write, the same thing in different ways. Make sure to use as much as of these words as possible, right? It'll be advantageous definitely in your resumes now and throughout the future as well. Make sure to use these words. Right? And yeah, for ATS, you can just Google free ATS score and you'll find some of these sites. You can get an ATS score. Make sure it's not below 50. Over 60 is good. Over 70 is very good. 80 and all is great. Okay, mine is personally, I think, at 76. Our college resume format is such that the score comes down to 70 to 80. Right? If you follow some ATS friendly format, if you just Google best ATS format or ask ChatGPT, give you a format which, if you want, you can use for off campus. Otherwise, in our resume itself, as I said, remove the photo, remove the logo, and remove the table, and make sure it is chronological. Right? The ATS score will jump up anyways. And you will take a look at my LinkedIn for forming your LinkedIn as well. Right? Now, so this is my final advice. Make sure your resume is structured, honest, and very sharp and crisp. All right. If you're interested, I can share my internship journey. If you're not, then we'll skip it. If you're interested, give a thumbs up. Or you can ask questions actually. Like, I don't want to say a random story. If you want to ask me any particular questions about my internship journey, my internships or placement in general, I think you can ask particular questions regarding that. That will be better. Anyone has questions, please go ahead. Value of keywords and how many to put. Okay, for non-core, yes, there's value of PR definitely. For consulting particularly, yes. For finance and analytics, not as much. For product, maybe slightly. How many to put depends on how many you have. If you have more than 5, then put 5. If you have less than 5, then put how many ever you have. 5 is ideal. More than 5 looks too much, in my opinion. If you don't have anything else and have only PORs, then you can write more PORs, right? And suppose, say, you don't have prior internship experience, you don't have prior any project experience, you just want to write, you have PORs, but so you can add description of PR as well. Ideally, 5 is very good, right? If you have 5. If you don't have 5, it's not an issue, right? For consulting, maybe yes, but for other roles, it's not an issue as such. But if 5 is ideal in that case. How was your Namo interview? What they asked? Any mistake? Okay, what are the things Namo focuses on? How important is GitHub link for a project on the resume? Okay, I'll answer the GitHub question first. So if the project is slightly technical oriented, like suppose I had an ML project in my resume, then it makes sense to put the GitHub link. It will be better if you can put that link, right? Important as in it's not essential or 100% mandatory thing. It's not like your resume will get rejected if there is no GitHub link, but it always adds to the value, right? So if you have something coding related, if you have something ML related, you have something data related, put it on GitHub, put the link. It definitely adds value. Yeah. Okay, coming to Namo, what did they ask? Okay, so Namo's process at my time, even last year for your seniors, so there was no OA or test as such, right? There was a straight up resume shortlisting. So that was, I think, one of the only roles where the resume was shortlisted directly. So that is where you can see the importance of the resume as such in consulting roles, right? So there were 80 or 90, almost 100 applicants as far as I remember, and they shortlisted 3 resumes. So one was me, one was I think Aniket Tiwari, if you know, he was GSCOA during like in our year, and one was Sachin Sahu. He was also, I think he was the convener of the Senate. So you can see PR is slightly important for Namo in particular and consulting roles in general as well. So PR definitely helps there. So they shortlisted 3 resumes and we had our interviews sometime in October, I guess. There were 3 rounds. The first round was a case or estimate. Yeah, the first round was a case round. Okay, so they gave me a case on, I don't remember. They gave me a case on, I think something on Ola. Yeah, they gave me a case on Ola wants to get into a new city, and so how should they go ahead in that particular city, and what should be their plan to enter that city, right? So I made like I gave a detailed look at the competitors existing first, the existing taxi market, existing auto market, and do some market sizing, key spots, identify key hubs, then identify existing taxi unions, and make a structured general outflow of how the market entry cases, and I gave them a case. Then I got a guesstimate of guess the number of white color Swift Desires in Delhi or Indore, I guess. I think Delhi. Yeah. Guess the number of white color Swift Desires in Delhi, and so I started doing that. When I was doing this guesstimate, I calculated everything right. I divided the population of Delhi age-wise, like size of family, and then every house may have 1 car. Then by market share of car manufacturers, and took Maruti Suzuki as a higher. Then Swift has this much, and then white color Swift this much, and I gave them an answer. But something that one mistake I did here was I did not take into account taxi drivers at all. Right. So white Swift Desires, when you go in a traditional approach of a guesstimate, you start from the population and you just keep solving to get that white one. But something I didn't notice at that point of time, and even you may not, is that there is a different aspect to it as well. When they ask white Swift Desires, it should come to one's mind, or at least to a consultant's mind, that white Swift Desires सबसे ज़्यादा तो मतलब taxi होता है. So the whole taxi aspect itself I had missed. So that was one mistake I had done. Then this was one round. Then there was a second round, which was about politics in general. It was not, they were not asking me anything particular. Like they asked me where I was from. So I'm from Chennai, and then I was studying in Indore, of course. So they mostly asked me politics around these 2 states only. They didn't ask me like any random state. So politics in general of the state you're from and the state where you're studying, and if there is any election or any activity going on, particularly during the interview around that time in any state, right? I think when our interviews had happened, the MP elections only were nearby, or maybe it was in the next month. So they asked me about MP politics and what do you think is happening? Will BJP win? And then there was about Tamil Nadu politics, explain Tamil Nadu politics. Why do you think BJP is not able to win there? And so these questions, I answered these. And then there was a third round wherein it was a similar, I think it was a go-to-market kind of case where I was asked about Myntra wants to come up with a smart makeup applicator where something like you just wear it on your face, like a device you wear on your face, and then makeup is applied automatically, and then just you can remove something like a helmet, right? And how do you yeah, a marketing campaign for this was supposed to be designed. So yeah, I came up with the general, have celebrities, influencers, and this roadmap, pre-buzz, launch, post-buzz, general marketing campaign or marketing strategy kind of case. So again, point to be noted, I was able to answer all this because I had prepared and done my case prep properly. So for consulting roles or even analyst roles, make sure to do some case prep, go through consulting case books of maybe IIMs or other IITs as well. You'll just find them online, search for consulting case books. Look at the interviews look at case interviews in those case books. You'll find plenty, and make sure to go through them, practice those questions as well. Are the prox interview round contents told beforehand? No, the interview round contents are not told beforehand. It is overall told that it will be a case interview. That much is told. Each content of each particular interview is not told. And the duration was, I think each round was around half an hour. It ranges from somewhere 20 minutes to even 45 minutes, right? That is the general duration of a case interview as such. Even for other roles, even during placements for analyst roles and companies like Deloitte, ICICI, Misho, BlackRock, even all these, the interview ranges were the 20 minutes to 40-45 minutes. That is where each round lasted. And every role has 2 to 3 rounds at least. Desire to get shortlisted for consulting roles both on campus and on campus if you're lacking PORs. Now, that is a subjective question. It depends on the rest of your profile. So, consulting hiring basically looks at spikes in your resume. By spikes, I mean something that stands out, right, in each section of your resume. So, if achievements, okay, something stands out, projects, okay, stand out, experience stand out, education, maybe good CPI, good scores stand out there, right? So you need to stand out. It is very cutthroat and very kind of unfair and very competitive also, but that is what they look at, right? So you need to have a spike in each part of your resume. It is not hard, but kind of a bit difficult, not very difficult if you lack PORs. But if you can make up for those PORs with the other sections, like with good achievements, great projects, and great experience ahead, then it's not a big, deal breaker, right? Basically, if you have enough spikes in the rest of your resume, apart from the POR, it's fine. Ideally, a well-rounded resume with spikes everywhere is what they look at. But again, this depends on factors such as the competition and which firm exactly you're applying to. On campus, it's like Namo being the only, for Namo particularly, I'll say POR is important. Even all the interns and everyone who's placed, or the batch which is joining with me in the firm as well, everyone has some POR of some sort, right? Either test or ESL or placement committee, or something like that. Everyone has something. For consulting roles in general, no, right? They look at the overall resume as such. So political consulting might be pure intensive. Management or policy consulting isn't, right? Policy consulting, they look a lot at your projects and experience. Management, they look at spikes overall in general in all sections of your resume, right? So on campus, as in for Namo, yes, it might be hard without PORs. In general, if some other company shows up on campus, or if for off campus in general for consulting firms, no, it's not hard. It's doable very much if you can balance your resume. Any other questions? Okay, we can move on to the looking at the resumes, the ones you guys have collected. I'll stop sharing, you guys can share. I'll just give comments on it.
Thank you so much for the session, Bhaiya. I'm sure the audience found that helpful based on the amount of questions we were getting. So let me share the resumes that we got as submission.
Yeah.
We can start now.
Okay. Okay, the experience part here looks good. There is a LinkedIn given. Why is LinkedIn given though? Okay, Mentor Me is run with LinkedIn. Okay, if you could give like I suppose the LinkedIn link is already given in the starting of the resume, right? So
Yes, it's there. We didn't have the
is it the
personal
LinkedIn of the Mentor Me? Then it's I guess it's fine. Okay, I got confused. Fine, fine, fine. Got it. Okay, this looks good. Now take a look at the second line of the first point and the second line of the second point, right? The second line of the first point is more than half, and the second point of the second line of the second point is relatively a lot shorter, right? So if this particular line can be extended, it'll look better. It's not an issue as such because there are plenty of numbers and you know solution oriented, impact oriented points. But otherwise, that is one thing that can be extended. Yeah. Can you scroll down? Similarly, in the first project as well, if you look at the second line of the first point, right? That's what I was talking about. It's not necessary to write it in one line. When you're writing it in two lines, make sure that it doesn't just end within the first two or three words. Make sure you can extend it to at least more than half of the line or towards the full line, right? Otherwise, everything looks good, right? There are highlights in the right places. There are numbers and there are solution oriented points. Even frameworks and tools are mentioned. Fine. Can you scroll down?
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Everything else is
So
fine.
we move on to the next one.
Sure. Yeah. Again, the similar point, maybe the last line of the first experience can be extended further, and that particular line lacks any number or highlight, right? So when you're doing this highlight thing, right, make sure that either don't do it at all, right? But I would advise do it, and when you do it, make sure that there are highlights equally across the entire resume, right? There would be something important in each line, at least a word or two words, right? So when you're highlighting, make sure that you highlight evenly, not that you just highlight two lines in the first part of the resume and then everything else is just bland. So right, maybe highlight a bit more evenly, and again, same fill the lines, like stretch the lines, add more words end to end across the resume, and say look at this point, formulated 10 plus customized case studies using 30 plus industry benchmarks supporting this and this. So when you write something like this, right, it looks kind of generic. When you look at the first experience, it's mentioned MongoDB, Compass, Postdog, and Excel. But in this second one, right, that particular thing is not mentioned. So when you're using 30 plus industry benchmarks, at least mention two or three benchmarks, right? At least mention two benchmarks. So something like this. Yeah, you can scroll down if. Again, yeah, say, look at this point, proposed store layout changes and tailored promotions that could increase potential sales by 30. So when you say 30, is it 30 quantity? Ideally, it should be in percentage, right? Never write the actual quantity. Ideally, it should be percentage, right? This percent of growth, or write how many times of growth, one time, two time, 1.5 time, 10, or 10. If it is less than like twice, so it'll come in percentage, right? When you say potential sales by 30, then that does not look as valuable as such, right? So small things like this, you can notice there is no full stop after that 30, right? So make sure to get the small things in it. If you just, when you prepare your resume, when you submit your resume, make sure you go through it at least 10 times, right? Every time you go through it, you'll find some mistake or the other, right? A full stop will be missing here, a capital letter will be missing there. Small things will keep coming out, so make sure to go through it enough number of times. Yeah, everything else is fine, I guess. You can go to the next one. Again, here if you look at the second experience, the number 7 AI, you can see that the first points are itself not stretching to the other end. So either stretch it to the other end, or make it, instead of 3 points, make it 2 points, make 1 point 2 lines and the other 1 line, right? So if you're writing 1 line, make sure that that 1 line at least stretches through the resume, right? It's not like you can't write it. You can definitely add a few words, and it's very much possible to extend that to 1 line. That much is definitely possible for any experience or any project. Right? You don't have to actually make up anything. You just have to write it in a different way. So make sure it's stretched out properly. I guess highlights can be done here since specific things are being written. So yeah, that is one. Yeah, you can scroll down. What is this blue highlight here in the corner? Is it in the resume? Can you shift
Yes,
towards
it's
the
a
right?
part of
Yeah.
the resume.
Yeah. So see, stuff like this, like that shouldn't be there, at least in the on-campus format. I don't think that should be there. So make sure tiny stuff like this. Those highlights sometimes they get generated when you put that link on LaTeX and all. So there are codes to disable that highlight as well. Make sure to Google it up. You'll find how to disable that highlight. Right. Otherwise, everything else, yeah, coming to, yeah, if you look at technical skills, under technical skills, first of all, it shouldn't be business, right? Either it should be, say, tools or something like that. And stuff like problem solving, market research, competitor analysis. I mean, these are skills you developed through a project or some experience, but this is not something worth mentioning in a resume, right? Competitor analysis is nothing high-fi that you've learned as such. Anyone can compare competitors, right, and analyze them. So particular tools like the first part is Python, Pandas, Excel, Power BI, machine learning. Yeah, if you want to write jargon and you want to write terminology, then get into very specific terminology. Like suppose if you look at product, there are particular types of funnels. There is an ARA funnel, activation, retention, and stuff like that. So that is something that is not so generic, maybe. So you can write something like that. But problem solving, market research, stuff like this, try to avoid. If there is no other point, you have to. That is the only thing you have to write, and you have nothing else to write. Then it's fine. It's not so bad, but try to avoid it. Otherwise, everything else is fine. Yeah. Here you can look at the emptiness as such, right? What I was talking about. So if you take a look at this GitHub link here, right? Blue firelight does not look professional. I'm sure you would have that username with a lot of love, but try to change it, right? Have a more formal, either your own name or something that is more formal than this, right? And the link should be more cleaner. Instead of putting the entire link here, in your project section, you can just use a hypertext GitHub as it is mentioned in the first project. But for the second one, somehow you decided to put the entire link. So that shows a lack of consistency as well. Apart from having a shabby link, there is a lack of consistency as well within the same section of the resume. So stuff like this. Plus, if you look at the starting of the pointers, in design the D small, created the C small, and use the U small. The used Google TTS line is not even a half line, right? So plus, I guess this looks, it makes it look empty, it makes it look unprofessional in general, right? This is a CV that might get rejected very early on, at least on campus, because on campus there will be tons of good CVs, right? So make sure to correct these. You can scroll down. Yeah, see, the compared to the CVs that we saw earlier, the spacings here are, they are much broader, right? So I'd say stick to the standard spacing and try to keep the chronology correct as well. You can see here that the more, okay, it's present, that's fine. Courses are there. In general, yeah, the spacing and the emptiness is what bothers. Otherwise, the points are fine. The consistency with the links and the capitalization, etc. Right? Those make sure to correct. And if you have less stuff to write, try to incorporate one more project. Right? That will make sure to fill your resume as such. Doing a project is not that hard compared to getting a very great PR or getting something in your experience section. So doing a project, I think, is the best way to boost your CV. Or if doing a project is very tough, make sure to add one line descriptions about your each PR and what you've done in that PR. So it can help you fill the resume and not make it look empty, right? And when you describe about the projects as well, make it at least 2 or 3 lines, full lines, right? One half line and the other not even a half line. Like that doesn't tell anything about the project, right? So I'm sure they will go to the GitHub link maybe if they read the resume, but on the first glance, it does not tell anything or describe anything about the project, right? So make sure to correct these. Otherwise, it's fine.
That's all the resumes we have.
Cool. If anyone
Um,
has any more questions, I'm open for it.
Is key courses taken an important section, or we can just remove it from our resume?
Again, see, what should be there in your resume and what shouldn't be there in your resume is very role specific and your profile specific, right? If say you're looking for a consulting role, right, but you have not done any course relevant to that or related to consulting, then it makes no sense to have that section. You can add an extra project or you can add an extra PR, right, instead of that section. So like that is how you should think about it. It's not a mandatory section at all. I'm not sure if the college asks for that section in general. If I don't think they do. If they do, make sure to keep it minimal. But otherwise, you can remove if it's not relevant to your profile and the job you're applying to. Anyone else?
uh, Thanks for the detailed feedback. That was incredibly insightful, and I think you've all answered almost everything. Now we can move on to a few questions, like some were prepared by us and some we collected through the registration form.
Okay.
Um, okay, so I think we can start. Here's a question from the Google form that I think many can relate to. The question says, I'm from the MTech Mechanical Engineering Department and I want to pursue a career in the consulting domain. I don't have any prior management or corporate experience. What skills should I focus on building? And would working on business case studies improve my chances of selection?
Okay. Firstly, make sure your grades are good. All right. For consulting or any job in general, make sure the grades are good. If your grades are bad, then every other thing makes no sense. Number two, it's fine to have no experience, but the consulting as a domain in particular does not look at prior experience as such. They look at your approach to thinking and approach to problem solving, right? Structured thinking and structured problem solving is what consulting is all about. Okay, so yes, what you should prepare is case problems and guesstimates, right? Coming to case problems, you need to do case books and case interviews, right? One, look for case books of IIMs or older IITs. Just Google them or search. You'll find links on LinkedIn, or you'll find direct PDF links as well. You'll get them very accessible, right? You'll have different types of cases. You'll have some profitability cases, some market entry cases, some expansion cases, some growth cases, some loss turnover cases. So every type, there are types of cases, and then there are different difficulty levels of cases within those types as well. So make sure to look at the questions, right? Try to create an approach of your own, and then look at the answer that is given in the case book as well. So most of these cases in those case books are actually real placement interview questions, right, of particular companies. In some case books, they mention the name of the company as well, right? So you get an idea of what kind of questions come in the particular company for the particular case, right? Number two, guesstimates. Guesstimates are just guessing estimates. There is a way to do it. You can find it on YouTube or just Google for it as well. Most of the case books have a guesstimate section within them as well. That is there, right? Then comes case competitions, right? Explore and stop. Once you get a hang of uh, the case interviews and guesstimates, right? You need to take part in a lot of case competitions, try to win some, right? Case competition involves a lot of, problem solving for a particular business case that is given in the competition. And the second important part is making the PPT, making a beautiful presentation. Like half of a consulting job is making PPTs and working on Excel, right? What, not half, even 90% of a consulting job is making PPTs and working on Excel. So making PPTs comes from the case competition part, and then comes your presentation, right? So when you participate in a case competition, you make a PPT uh, showing a solution for the case, and then you present it in the final presentation round. So once you go through this process, if you win some, then indirectly it shows that okay, you're good at this PPT thing and presenting it, which is ultimately what consultants do, right? They make a presentation out of from a problem, they make a presentation of their solution, and they present it to the clients. So that is ultimately what happens in a case competition. So yeah, case interview prep, guesstimates, and case competitions. Additionally, you can do some Excel and SQL, because with changing times, consultants do deal with data as well now. So it's an added bonus to have good Excel and SQL. Not necessary, but definitely an added bonus. So this is majorly the path. Yeah.
Okay, so another question is, what's the role of projects in a resume, especially for non-core roles? Like, what kind of projects do recruiters find impressive? Does relevance to the role matter more than the complexity?
Yes, relevance to the role matters more than complexity. If you have a web dev project for a consulting role, it's kind of pointless. You get what I'm saying. It's pretty obviously pointless. So relevance is the main thing here. Even if your project in a different domain is much more complicated than your project in, say, the relevant domain, then go with the project in the relevant domain, right? So projects do matter, yes, because projects are actually the most important part if we skip the experience part. Because for internships, at least, one would assume that okay, this might be your first internship in a lot of cases. So the projects becomes the most crucial part. And coming to relevance, yes, as I mentioned in the PPT as well, for consulting, these are the things they look at. For product, these are the things they look at. For analyst, like Power BI, SQL, and Excel. So make sure that when you do the project, these tools or what they look at for that particular role is somehow reflected in those projects. And that is how you craft the project section of the resume for that particular role.
Okay, let me continue from that. What skills do recruiter consistently look for in specifically non-core fields?
Again, that as we are divided in the session in the 4 domains, right? For consulting, it is structured thinking, structured problem solving, and structured communication. So that is pretty much the skill they look at, and that is what a case interview tests. For analysts, apart from cases, there are SQL. They ask SQL questions or even Excel questions sometimes in the interviews, right? They give you an Excel query or they give you an Excel database, SQL database, a small table, and they ask you to write queries for generating particular outputs out of that table, or even in some cases even Power BI is used, right? That is for analyst. For product, in the same way, instead of case interviews for consulting where there are business problems, in product interviews there are product problems, right? So they give you like, okay, this particular feature of this is the particular feature we introduced, but maybe consumers are not liking it, users are not liking it. So okay, so what changes do we make, or should we make a change or not? Do you think the user will evolve with it? Questions like these. So uh, for product particularly, focus on uh, product mapping, product road mapping. Even there is root cause analysis, which involves finding the root cause of the problem in the particular product. There is stuff like wireframing, try to do some Figma, right? And if you can do product breakdowns, product teardowns or product breakdowns, as I had mentioned, right? Take up any favorite product of yours, right? Do a detailed breakdown of it, every aspect of it. Make a beautiful PPT or a report as such, and put it up on your LinkedIn, right? So all of this will add value. For finance roles on campus, like for core finance roles, which are like Axela, Future First, etc. So what they ask in the interviews is mostly math, calculation, and a decent amount of stock market awareness, like in general. Nothing detailed or nothing hardcore, right? Because they are coming to an engineering college, they don't expect to have a finance professional ready already in the college, right? So they ask mostly math, in general math, and uh, HR questions, and then general current affairs questions to have your general financial awareness gauged. Otherwise, yeah, this is pretty much what you prepare in these four aspects.
One last question. Do you recommend reading resumes differently for core versus non-core?
Definitely, yes. Even in non-core, every resume should be role specific. A consulting resume and a product resume will be different. A consulting resume and a finance resume will be different. A consulting resume and a core electrical resume will be completely different. So definitely have different resumes for different domains, and try to have for different roles as well. Broadly, if one plans to sit in every company like software, core, and non-core, then ideally have three master resumes, and for every company that comes in the particular domain, then you make changes based on the role. But if you already decided that I'll sit for non-core, then you will have one master non-core resume, and then you make changes according to the particular role.
Okay, that is it from our side. If anyone has any other questions, they can put it on the chat or raise their hands.
Okay. If anyone gets any questions later as well, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, right, or Insta if you're already connected. However, please, if you have my number, you can DM as well. All right. So you can reach out. I'll respond. I open LinkedIn like every day, so LinkedIn would be preferable. All right. So if you have any questions, do feel free to reach out anytime. Right.
One last question actually. During your time at IIT Indore, you were known as one of the most approachable seniors, as far as we have heard.
Yeah.
So now being invited back as an alumnus to help your juniors again, how does it feel to return and contribute like this?
Feels great. Uh, I'm always open to contribute. Like I've contributed throughout college life as well, so I'm always open to contribute even after college. So it feels great. It feels great to talk to people and solve some of the questions or queries that I had in my days when I was preparing. Like during our time, at least for non-core, there was not much guidance because a lot of people hadn't gotten those opportunities. So a lot of things we had to figure out for ourselves. But it's good to see good number of people interested in non-core as well. That number used to be much lesser when I was preparing for my internships. but it's good to have this session and good to speak to people.
I think we can conclude the session here. A big thank to Arunaditya Bhaiya for taking the time to join us and sharing his advice on resume building and overviewing the resumes for us. And thank you everyone who has attended. We hope you're walking away with some clarity on how to build more effective and tailored resume. Thank you.
Thank you everyone, and thank you ASL team as well. Hope you got clear. Thank you.